In the city that never sleeps, I found myself sleepwalking. I was grappling with my true nature, attempting to tuck it into the dusty corners of my corporate life. New York, my home, a city of dreams. A city where ambition melted into the cacophony of blaring horns, towering skyscrapers, and the ceaseless chatter of bustling people. In the midst of the corporate jungle and the city's vivid hues, I found myself caught in a constraining labyrinth, a paradox I couldn't unravel. This era of my life was a deadpan oil painting, shades of gray merging into each other, forming nothing more than a blurry facade. There I was, a full-time corporate professional with an artist's heart beating fervently within. Struggling to strike a balance, I would often find myself doodling on the corners of my office notepad, my fingers itching for the soft bristles of a paintbrush, unfamiliar with the icy touch of my computer keyboard. Despite the mundane predictability of my office hours, my heart yearned for the wild symphony of colors, begging me to dip my brushes into the essence of my raw emotions. Perhaps this was a symphony that the world couldn't hear, but I could feel it echoing within the confines of my pulsating heart. It was like standing at the edge of a precipice, caught between the security of a full-time job and the unpredictable beauty of my art. My heart and mind played out a game of chess, each trying to rule my existence. The metronome of my heart, once syncing with the rhythm of my strokes, now lost in the ticking of the corporate clock. The constant battle, however, didn't stop me from nurturing my inner artist. Attending art events amidst the tussle seemed like oasis. In response to my passion, my soul rebelled against the monotony of my job, strumming a rhythm only I could hear. A rhythm that reverberated within each stroke I cautiously laid on the canvas, within each color I mixed on my palette, within each masterpiece that was birthed in secrecy. My heart ached for the canvas I had left behind in my pursuit for financial stability. The corporate world only added an extra layer of concealment to my burgeoning artistic passion. To everyone around me, I was just another corporate employee marching along to the beat of the city. But within me was an artist, a restless being yearning for release, for a version of freedom that wasn't smothered by financial security. This subdued existence, a portrait of a man with a half-lived life and half-drawn dreams, was my daily reality. It was in the midst of this internal turmoil that a splash of color entered my world. Her name was Sophie, a fellow art enthusiast who I had crossed paths with at an art event. She was the breath of fresh wind I needed in my dry corporate life, a reason to paint smiles on my monotonous calendar. From our first meeting, she seemed to understand me, the man beneath the corporate attire, the artist held captive by life's obligations. I remember the way she listened as I bared the depths of my heart to her, my complaints of corporate camouflage, my yearnings for the bohemian blues. Her empathy was my solace, her energy my muse, and in her I saw a companion who could fathom my quiet desperation. We kicked off a love story stitched with the elegance of artistic expression. Our dates were often extraordinary, devoid of the typical jazz or candlelit dinner. We were more likely to be found in an art studio or perhaps a dimly lit corner in a museum, dissecting the nuances of a Picasso or dwelling over the genius of Van Gogh. If love is an art, then we were skilled artisans, crafting a slapdash brushstroke romance that screamed our shared passion for creation. My days with Sophie were flecked with bursts of inspiration. Behind my office desk I was Andrew Green, the corporate professional, but with Sophie I was just Andrew, the artist. I remember how she would stay silent for long periods when I worked, her eyes pinned on the canvas, her whole self reverberating with intensity. It wasn't just my art she was observing, it was a piece of my soul, art serving as a window to my internal world. And it was then, in the silent symphony between us, that I felt seen as the creator that I was, unmasked and brazenly exposed. Sophie, with her exotic allure and shared passion for art, provided me a shelter to come home to, a refuge amidst the war I was fighting within. And in return I offered her a glimpse into my madness, my pursuit of the inexplicable beauty that lied at the heart of art. This was more than mere lovers' exchange. It was an empathetic bond forged in the crucible of shared dreams and kindred spirits. Through her, I wove the stories my heart yearned to tell, painting her essence onto the canvas of my life, and in doing so, reigniting the artist within me. The love we nurtured was more than just a love between two souls. It was an homage to the craftsmanship of life, to the artist that resided beneath the corporate exterior. Safe to say, Sophie's entrance into my life was an artist's rendition of a modern-day romance, complete with the hues of passion, the shadows of heartache, and the bold strokes of self-revelation, slowly pulling me out from the grayscale of my corporate life into the vibrant technicolor of my inner passions. It was the kind of love that didn't just happen to you. It transformed you, refined you, took a chisel to your raw core and shaped it into a thing of beauty. And perhaps for the first time in my life, amidst all the uncertainties and all the struggle, I had quite unapologetically fallen in love with the artist in me. However, as summer dawned, the sky painted the subtle hues of passion, my life took a vibrant turn. In a mundane gathering organized by my corporate universe, I dropped my anchor at an art event in New York, a slight detour from my everyday life. There, amidst the vivid canvases and intriguing sculptures, I found something more enchanting: Sophie, a fellow art enthusiast whose spirit was as radiant as the art she admired. We passionately swapped stories of the creative world, her words laced with such fascination, painting the gray routine of corporate life into an extraordinary masterpiece of shared dreams. She was like a whirlwind of fresh air in my life, tousling my otherwise neatly arranged priorities. From that day forward, she wasn't just another woman in my life. She was a breath to my art, adding depth to my sketches, adding poetry to the story I wanted my work to tell. Our dates were mostly spent swaying hand in hand through art exhibitions, lost in the rumination of exquisite brushstrokes, or huddled over a coffee, animatedly discussing the genius hidden within the unconventional contours of modern art. Her presence was like a splash of color on my dull canvas, resurrecting the artist tucked away beneath piles of corporate expectations. I began to frequent the art events more, with her by my side, and it was during those ephemeral moments of shared silence I felt a thing of brilliance coming my way. Sophie had a way of making me feel seen, truly seen for what I was. She peered into my soul through my art, understanding my language of lines and colors, comprehending the hidden meaning in every curve. It was not just my art that she admired, it was my passion pouring out from my every gesture. The artist encompassed within the corporate robot. Sophie, with her enlightened spirit and shared passion for art, became a refuge amidst the corporate chaos that had been consuming me. Her support was the inspiration I needed to refine my passion into my skill. I found myself drawn to the smell of wet earth, the tales in abstract patterns, the hidden messages in the fingers of distressed wood, things that till now were mere objects but now were stories waiting to unravel. Creativity, long dormant, bubbled within me. I would often find myself lost in thoughts, sketching the silhouette of her smile, the curve of her eyebrows, or simply her laughing eyes. The artist in me had slowly begun to dominate the businessman, and there was something liberating about it. As drowsy sun faded behind the towering skyscrapers of New York, so did my corporate job. Jaunted by days consumed by corporate jargon and the marked absence of my brushes and colors, I made an audacious decision, one that I had not anticipated before. One fine day in November, I put my foot down. Prickling with a nervous energy and driven by the urge to seek more from life, I resigned. My office table, once brimming with piles of paperwork, suddenly lay vacant and eerily silent. Reality hung in the air like an icy winter morning, waiting to thaw under the warmth of my long-forgotten dreams. I was now jobless, left alone with my thoughts, pondering over the void that lay ahead, haunted with the possibility of uncertainty. My once smooth routine life quickly took a twist as I found myself amid the labyrinth of color tubes, sketch pads, and paintbrushes. My studio, once a quiet retreat from the chaos of the outside world, now became my universe. Compelled by the silent walls that now heard my deepest thoughts, saw me in my rawest form, my hands willingly danced over the canvas, trying to breathe life back into my art. Comforted by the freedom to pour my creative energies onto my canvas, I was once again hit by a wave of dread, akin to standing on the edge of a cliff and gazing into an abyss of uncertainty. Was my decision to quit could be my undoing? Or was this the start of a journey where Andrew the artist would finally overshadow Andrew the corporate man? Despite the fizzling embers of hope, I embarked on a new journey in the corporate world once again in December. Being desperately torn between my duties in the corporate world and my artistic pursuits, I was restlessly wandering on the brink of my artistic aspirations and professional obligations. The two opposing facets of my life began a silent battle, the corporate world pursuing efficiency and profit, and my art, my reflection, a portrayal of abstract, open-ended thoughts and emotions. The fresh aroma of stationery in my office room stood in stark contrast with the intoxicating whiff of paint that once filled my nostrils. What used to be glimpses of skylines and cityscapes in my artworks had now become an everyday sight outside my office window, a grim reminder of the irony of life. The frigid, sterile light of the computer screen replaced the warm, tranquil glow that bounced off the wet canvas in my studio. Drawn between the world of expressive freedom and the rigid idiosyncrasies of the corporate realm, my resolve wavered on occasions, but the untamed artist within stubbornly resisted, refusing to be chained by the mundane uniformity of numbers and spreadsheets. I found myself in an internal tug-of-war, constantly running the risk of losing my essence as an artist to the unending demands of my corporate life. The culmination of these disturbances, however, brought clarity in an unexpected form. I realized that the more I tried to escape the realities of my corporate job, the firmer it gripped me, and ironically, it was fuel for my art by acting as a muse of the unexpressed desires and curbed freedoms. I did not have to choose between two seemingly contrasting dimensions, but instead coexist and strive within the space that lay before me. In this struggle to maintain equilibrium, I was unwittingly sketching a new curve in my journey, one that traced the intersection of Andrew the artist and Andrew the businessman. Yet my mind echoed with a silent question: can these two worlds ever meet? Or was I always meant to be a pendulum, oscillating between them? In the parallel universe of my life, the artist and the corporate worker in me fought a covert warfare. Just like a pair of clashing waves, each was striving to outdo the other in asserting their significance. The corporate obligations demanded my acumen, the meetings needing my attention, the figures seeking precision, and at stark polarity stood my canvas, silently waiting under the dimmed light of my studio. Each time my hand hovered over my sketchpad, lured by the allure of the empty pages, the responsibility of my corporate role pulled me back. An internal bristle, a ceaseless friction between the pounding heart and the analyzing brain. At night, eerie silence filled up my apartment, where once the rhythmic tap of my paintbrush mingled with the intoxicating tunes of bass guitar. As an amateur tightrope walker balancing on the thin rope of my existence, I swayed perilously between these two capricious winds that threatened to tear me away from the enchanting flavor of creativity. The aura of my office, the tangy scent of paperwork, the biting chill of the conference room air conditioner began morphing into the somber overtures of my artworks as I subconsciously brought bits of my corporate life into my art. Yet, an inexplicable charisma began to brew within this identitarian mayhem, coloring my existence with the shades of an unanticipated reality. Every moment of conflict, the overt dominance of company files over charcoal pencils, the loud cacophony of corporate buzzwords over the subtle whispers of creativity, bore a new influence on my art. Conforming to the corporate schedule paradoxically worked as a stimulus for creativity. The tension, the deadlines, the pressure became the silent catalysts fueling my urge to break free, to reach out to my familiar world of brushes and palettes. And the more my corporate life tried to smother my artistic inclinations, the stronger the desperation to splash colors on the canvas, to make sense of the jumbled thoughts into tangible strokes of expression. My art was not merely a derivative of my emotional experiences anymore. It was steadily evolving into a narrative of my struggle, my resistance against the mundane, the monochrome world of professionalism. The tumult was perhaps necessary, the discord essential. A symphony can only be created in the orchestra of contrasted tones. Sophie. The name etched in my heart echoed through the gallery halls and reverberated amidst the colors on my canvas. There was a certain resilience in the way she held my hand, a distinctly firm grip that managed to soften the jagged edges of reality, making my two conflicting worlds seamlessly coalesce into one. Despite the storm brewing within, her presence became my anchor, a lighthouse amidst my raging sea of uncertainties. Her compassion, her unflinching support became the much-needed counterweight to balance my metaphorical seesaw of responsibilities versus passion. With her hands intertwined in mine, even amid the chatter of the corporate crowd, I could hear my thoughts dancing on the tune of my colorful dreams, and her understanding eyes whispered to my art-laden soul, "You're not alone." She was the only one who could truly comprehend the chaotic ballet that was endlessly performed within me, a graceful dance between the weight of my corporate responsibilities, inching like a determined glacier, and the incandescent river of my artistic ambitions, gushing through the cracks to triumphantly meet the vast ocean. She was neither an imposing mountain nor overly enthusiastic current. She was just there, like a serene autumn evening gently refracting its crimson hues in the calming brook. In the silences between our shared laughter, stargazing on the roof of our Yorkville apartment, she subtly became the muse to my creations, leaving imprints on my canvas, unveiling colors that I never knew existed. I began sketching her, her vibrant aura seeping through my charcoal, her sparkling eyes reflecting in the curves of my paintbrush, and her capturing essence becoming the heartbeat of my art. In those moments, as I painted her onto my canvas, our souls met beyond the physical realm. Sophie became an essential ingredient of my artistic concoction, subtly inherent yet powerful enough to tilt every rhythmic stroke towards perfection. And our shared journey of love and companionship, a clandestine harmonium of life's unsaid dimensions, held my passion and my work together like a symphony under the watchful canvas of my trivial existence.